Hello, everybody. Welcome into my live today. This is Dr. Fred with Write Your Worth Daily with Dr. Fred. But you're going to be writing it daily today with Dr. Fred and someone else. I got a special guest that I've located, and we're going to bring him in just a moment to talk with you about how to start your online business with a book free, how to start your online business free. Okay, and he's going to talk about a book that he's the author of, the best-selling book. So I'm Dr. Fred Jones. My doctor is a Jewish doctor. That's a law degree. I'm an attorney, and I'm a publisher and best-selling author of multiple books. But right now, I want to go and grab our guest today and bring him into the broadcast. Let's see if we can't get him on in here. You're going to be real pleased with this young man. Okay? All right. There he is, right there. Hello there, Mr. Jonathan Jones. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, Dad. How about yourself?
Hey, man, I'm doing well, doing well. You know, we've been here wrestling behind the scenes, learning how all this stuff works. Am I right about it?
Yes, sir. Building the plane while we're still flying.
Building a plane while we fly. Why is that so important? Now, you know one thing, John, I really like doing the interview thing. I like asking the questions. I like being interviewed, but I know I can ask some good questions. So
I
why,
know it. I know it.
yeah, why is it important to build a plane as you fly?
Why is it important to build the plane as you fly?
Yeah, and what do you
Hmm.
mean? And what do you mean when you say that?
Well, it's just like going back to science class,
Uh-huh.
trial and error. You make a hypothesis, which is an educated guess on what's going to happen, but ultimately we don't know everything starting out. So it's important to build it while we're flying because as we begin to progress, then we get a better learning and understanding by way of experience. Baptism by fire, one could say.
So what are we building? You talk about building a plane. Are we building an airplane? What in the world are we building?
Well, it all depends on the people in their particular industry. For us right now, we're talking about effectively building a business
Uh-huh.
while we're ultimately building that as we're growing is what I'll shift the analogy to, as opposed to building it while we're flying, but building it while we're growing.
Uh-huh.
Because every day, if you have a coach and then you learn something from your coach, then this allows you to apply that into your business. So therefore, you're adding value to everyone who falls up under you.
So building the plane as you fly, you are talking about learning as you go. So basically what you're saying
Mhm.
is not being a perfectionist or not thinking that everything has to be perfect before you release your product, before you release your program and so forth. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Because the most important thing is to get it out there. You can put something out there. I think that's the biggest piece. A lot of people struggle because they're like, oh, well, I need to change this or this has to look like this, and they're saying all those things, like you said before, behind the scenes, and ultimately nothing ever gets released. But if once we put the project out there, the business out there, the concept out there, then okay, later, but the most important thing is it's out there in the open, out there to where we can get feedback or like we talked about the other day, the exchange a business, which ultimately is the exchange of goods and services for a nominal fee.
For a nominal fee. All right, so John, we're talking about how 3 tips to starting a business. How should somebody? A lot of people want to write books and they want to be speakers, but how do they get started? A lot of them are on a job that they don't like, or they somewhere in life and they're trying to make that shift. How would you? Can you help the people? What's one thing you would say that's a powerful way for them to make this shift?
One powerful way, because we're talking about these people making the transition.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so first, I would say would be identify the skill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So each and every person, I personally believe that each and every individual has a God-given gift, or we can switch that word and say skill.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something that they do better than anyone else, or this is something that they have a unique way of doing such thing. For somebody, it could be speaking. Somebody else, it could be sewing. And somebody else,
Mm-hmm.
it could be teaching.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we have to identify is we have to identify that skill, Dad. And
Uh-huh.
then when we identify the skill, then we can take the next step. But I feel like you're about to say something else.
No, no, I'm just putting up on the screen.
Okay.
Identify your gift or skill is point number one. You see it on the screen there?
That's it. You have to identify the skill.
I,
Yes, yes. You have to identify the skill.
so when they identify,
But
go ahead.
after they identify the skill,
Hmm.
then you want to begin to think, I have a skill.
Hmm.
Now, what gives me the ability to connect with my audience?
Hmm. Hmm.
So
Hmm.
we've got the skill. And a skill is something, like I said, everybody has their own unique skill, their own unique perspective. But then the story is what connects you with the audience.
Okay,
So
wait.
we identify the skill.
Uh-huh. Yeah, identify the skill, and now and point number two is what?
The story.
What about the story? What do you mean when you say the story?
Because, like I said before, the skill doesn't necessarily connect you with anyone.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
Because a lot of people have skills. That there's people in the NBA, they have skills. People in whatever platform, there's nurses that have skills,
Hmm.
but we're not necessarily really connected to them for their skill.
Hmm.
We see them, we're like, wow, that's amazing. But when we began to hear from people with their stories, and the best example that I can think of is typically, Dad, when there's a major sporting event,
Hmm. Hmm.
even though not many are happening right now, not live. There's
Uh,
major sporting events, Super Bowls and things like that. They go in and they interview some of the star players. And then you begin to hear the background of these people's stories.
hmm. Hmm.
And
Hmm.
Dad, I don't know about you, I'm getting the chill bumps right now, but there have been times where I would get ready to watch a game or get ready to watch some sort of competition or even award show.
Hmm.
And then I felt there was no connection between me and that particular person. But then I began to hear their story. And then I started to see that there were points that kind of connected us. And I was like, wow, okay, well, that person came from Louisiana also.
Hmm.
Wow, well, that person was a product of blank.
Hmm. Hmm.
So we identify the skill,
Hmm.
the story connects us.
Hmm. 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 Oh boy.
And then that, mm-hmm,
After you identify the skill,
mm-hmm,
everybody got a skill, right?
mm-hmm.
Tell your story. The story is where the connecting take place. Okay,
That's correct.
so we're talking about how to start a business for free. Anyone can
Mm-hmm.
start a business today. They because everybody got a skill or a gift from, and everybody's got a story. Okay, so skill, story. What's the third thing they can do to build a business?
The third thing you would have to have there, you would have to have strategy.
Strategy. I thought the third thing might have been a book or something.
Well, no, no, I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting there.
Okay, strategy.
Understanding, strategy. So skill,
Uh huh.
story, strategy, because the strategy is what lines it all up together.
Oh, now, okay, I'm listening.
Because if I have a skill, then great. People can say, "Oh, wow, you have a great skill." That does nothing for anyone if I don't have a strategy, because the strategy, here's the fourth S, is when you begin to identify who you serve.
Oh, okay. Uh huh. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And
Skills.
and and, and I and I think you've done a great job of this, because like you've said way before, and I have I have the best-selling award, where on it you say best sellers equal best servants,
Mm,
and ultimately understanding
mm,
that you can't serve people unless you identify who they are.
mm-hmm.
But that's where the coach comes into play,
Mm-hmm.
because yeah, you can start a business for free. There's no doubt about it. But you're gonna have to make an investment in here. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna you don't necessarily you have the skill, but just like Bishop T.D. Jakes has said before, he said God gives us trees. God doesn't make tables. In order
Wow.
for us to get the tree, in order for us to get the table, we have to take time, and we have to chop down the tree. Then we have to peel the bark off. Then we have to clean it. We have to go through a process. And going through that process is what ultimately helps us sharpen that skill, sharpen that tool. You have to cultivate it. But
Wow.
like I said before, because Dad, the skill, anybody can have a skill.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
With me, I want to talk about Kobe Bryant really quick. I'm getting excited, but I'll talk about Kobe Bryant for a second
Mm-hmm.
because I've watched interviews of Kobe Bryant before his passing, and Kobe Bryant came on the interview and said, "I was never a great player
Mm.
until
Mm.
until I began to realize if I invest 2 hours a day into becoming better at my skill, which was the game of basketball, then that would help me dominate." How did I find out about Kobe's skill, Dad? Or how was I connected to Kobe's skill? Watching the interviews, I heard his story. And I
Mm.
was like, wow, I used to I used to be the one that I have to stay a little bit later. There's a lot of people out there who are listening to this broadcast and they're saying, I have a skill. And now as they're listening to me share, they're saying, wow, I have a story also. Like you said earlier, Dad, our scars, our flaws, these all make up our story. But if we never take the time to identify that we have one and we're worthy of sharing our story, people will never hear about the skill. If we don't think we're worthy, we'll never create a strategy to serve anyone. So a coach is so pivotal, and this is where you were really pivotal in my book writing journey. It was the fact of you helped me identify that I had a story to share to my generation, who is the millennial generation. Then I was like, okay, Dad, maybe I might have something to share there. I don't. You said, well, no, John, you can share your strategies of what you've learned in your life up until
Mm-hmm.
this point.
Mm-hmm. 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 That's
So
correct.
understanding that was when we began to take the time and really walk through the process. And I was like, okay, Dad, what does this take? And then we talked about, the investment. And like I still say to the day, I still say that that's the best life lesson that I've been taught from my parents until now is to invest in yourself.
That's a good one right
Yeah.
there. And that's a great place for us to break. Awesome, awesome information here. Your skills, your story, your strategy, and your service. Put those forward in motion, my friend, and you got a formula there that will lay a great foundation for writing an ebook and starting building your business, all for free. You got all this already in you. Jonathan Jones, thank you so much for your time, sir. Any closing comments before we go?
Best sellers are best servants. When you find someone to serve, then you have a solution or you're the source of being able to truly serve and support that individual. So that's it. That's my final words.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you so much. Folks, I want to remind you the most expensive thing you'll ever pay is attention to the wrong people. Join me daily right here on Facebook, right here on Periscope, right here on YouTube for Write Your Worth Daily with Dr. Fred Jones, 5 o'clock a.m.